David. David.
He's falling in a beautiful swirling pattern.
David.
What is up, everyone? This is the David Wells Experiment, and I'm your host, David Wells. I feel like I'm kind of on a streak recently. I mean, it's only been a couple days since I started doing this again, but here I am, recording a third episode. Kind of my problem with the first time around was I got a little burned out, but I feel compelled to make, so here I am. I went ahead and... So the funniest thing happened. I randomly decided on my day off to go by that place Crumble Cookie and buy a 6-pack of cookies for my coworkers who were working today. Just the thought passed my mind, and they all seemed to really appreciate it, which is cool. And then I went and I saw that new movie, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It was pretty good. It was decent. Like, it was better than, it's okay. But I enjoyed it. My mom enjoyed it. She's like kind of the best person to take to see these kinds of movies because she reacts to stuff, which is hysterical. There was one character who I thought was going to be more significant in the movie, but it turned out not to be, so left things vague so not to spoil it for anyone. Wouldn't that be funny? Somebody in 2047 is listening to this podcast and you're like, oh, thanks for ruining that for me, bro. And here I am in 2023, showing that consideration. We left the theater and my mom was telling me like, yeah, I saw the first one back in the 80s and I was 19. I thought, oh, that's sweet. That's crazy, when I think about it. Her and my dad, like, she met him when she was 15 and he was like 18 and they decided to get married because that was the 70s and / early 80s and people did stuff like that. And that leads to the present. I'm kind of surprised that I've created so much podcasts recently. It's funny, like I've done like 4 of them, but one of them was a documentary I shot. I did videos, and when I didn't even know Spotify did videos, and when I first started doing podcasts, they would offer me like, hey, you can put a video on here. I'm like, oh, I don't know what would be appropriate. But anyway, I came up with something, and one of my friends, an old coworker, he's like, oh, I used to go there all the time. So that was cool. And let's see. I really felt a boost in encouragement when one of my coworkers, she said, like, so what's that experiment thing? Like, and I told her, oh yeah, I had a podcast. I used to be much more active, but I'm trying to get back into that. And I'm like, oh, and she was like, oh, that's cool. I just thought it was interesting that she even bothered to ask me about that, because it could have just been like a passing thing, like just a post. So it was cool of her to ask a question about said post. I feel like it really kind of spurred me to just try to make stuff more. And it's the funniest thing when you do make things. Like, I've had this theory about movies where it's like, I just need to make something. Somehow I fell off of that, which puzzles me because I say that a traumatic event happened and it caused me to fall off and not pay attention to making movies. But I've had so many other equally traumatic things happen to me, and I don't know why I lost focus of it from that event, which I won't go into detail about what it was. Anyway, but yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, if I just had a project to make, I know I would start making movies again more regularly. And as I've said in a previous podcast, I used to be very hung up on becoming like the next Christopher Nolan or Tarantino. Like I had to ascend that level. It's really not a goal of mine. I guess something that I want is just make a piece of art that's gonna outlive me. That would be cool. But anyway, yeah. I don't know that I'm going to make a podcast as long as the last couple episodes. I just felt like making something. It's just funny that you don't know what somebody saying something, what kind of effect it's going to have on you. Like the other day, I had a manager. Do I say this or not? Anyway, yeah, I had a manager, my boss, tell me that I haven't been doing as good of a job as I normally do. And I was kind of taken back because, to my knowledge, I hadn't really done anything different than I have in the years since. And I was always of the opinion that I never really did that great of a job to begin with, and that one day they'd figure it out and my time would be up. And she didn't like threaten to fire me or anything, but she's like, I'd confided to her like a month or so ago, like, you know, I've gone through some stuff like what with my grandpa dying, and I just feel changed on the inside. And something that really irked me the other day when I was like, it wasn't the other day, but it was of fairly recent time. I guess she noticed by her assertion, I haven't done as good of a job as I used to. And she was saying she wanted the old guy back, the one she knew who was detail oriented. And she said to me, I know you've gone through some stuff, but it's just an excuse to not try as hard or something. I know she didn't mean it this way, but it kind of felt like she was calling my grandpa an excuse. And I'm of such tempered opinion. I'm like, Part of me thinks I should have just quit. But there's always that part of me that's like, easy now. You remember, you've got bills to pay, you've got family to look after, and it would be such a hassle to go to. I'm sure I could apply somewhere and I'd get hired. Funny thing is, I remember the last place I worked at before I came back to Chick-fil-A was this place called Corner Bakery at the Quarry. And there was this one manager there who, he seemed to not like me. Or he just seemed irritated. But even he said, like, you did pretty good today for your first day. It's all the way back in 2012. Uh, so I kind of don't like what my manager said to me, but at the same time, I know that she's gone through some stuff and try to give her some grace. But one of the things that really makes me want to stay is I like the people that I currently work with. And they kind of make it worth coming to work for. So that's cool. Like, I kind of hope that by the time that I do decide to leave Chick-fil-A, and I'm really, something would have to happen to move my deadline of leaving by the end of 2023. Like, I need a road to Damascus kind of moment if I was going to change something. But I kind of hope that by the time I do leave, the people that I like will have gone. I don't know why it'd be easier for me. I guess it would be easier for me to leave, to like put in my 2 weeks and say, bye guys, it's nice working with you, but I gotta go do other stuff. And I don't make like a paltry amount of money. It's just that, sometimes bills get tight. And if I get into photography, real estate photography, I can I could potentially work half as much and make twice as much. I'm really starting to think about wedding photography simply because I hear you can make $500 a gig. That sounds amazing. And I do like the idea of, if I hustle at that as much as I do at my job, I could potentially have my house paid off. Updated my portfolio to send around to real estate photo places. I've got kind of a bare bone kit, but I got that almost a year ago. I got it sometime last year. The camera, the flash, yeah. And even by the time I got it, I was thinking, I'm going to get into real estate photography soon. And that didn't happen. I originally had a goal of leaving by February. Here I am 6 months later. That obviously didn't happen. In a way, I'm kind of glad because I met some new people at my work who they're cool. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to meet them. But yeah, there'll be a time when, my looks will fade and I'll be like the oldest guy at Chick-fil-A. And thank goodness I look as young as I do, because if I didn't, I feel like I would feel weird be working around a bunch of kids, though nobody ever makes me feel like the old guy. I mean, I'm only 35. But that's one of the benefits of just not drinking soda and drinking lots of water. I feel like I kind of put myself on the back burner for a lot of things. I just need to make something. And yeah, need to make something, do something. I do need to get back into filmmaking. Or at the very least, audio dramas. With an audio drama, I could tell a story, not have to worry about secure location, all that. I used to be so focused on being a filmmaker, and kind of like Kevin Smith, I had a thing where I'm like, you know, it doesn't have to be reserved to one medium. I think I just need to make things to be happy. But I also have to make money. And I feel like I've got to increase how much money I make because my parents are getting older. And I recently saw my grandpa pass away at the beginning of the year. And I saw him sort of start to go at the end of last year. And he was only about 20 or so years older than both my parents. I think he had my dad when he was in like his early 20s. Like, my grandpa was born in 42 and my dad was born in 61. So, dang, he was like, I think he was 19 or he was 20 when he had my dad. That's kind of nuts. It's funny, like, I remember at the funeral, one of my uncles who was kind of leading the whole effort, he was put gonna put some of my grandpa's ashes in like these little containers for each of them to have. And my dad kind of reclined the effort because he said he's not a sentimentalist. Now, this sounds like I'm sure he had a reason. Who knows? Maybe it was too emotional for him. But he said he wasn't a sentimentalist. But to me, it feels like there's some disconnect because in that same ceremony, he got up on stage and sang a song that he wrote about his dad. I feel like if you are sentimental, I think of sentimentality and emotions as so inextricably linked. And I remember when when me, my uncle, and aunt first visited my grandpa's grave, I'm like, well, I'm very much sort of the bleeding heart sentimentalist. Like, the words sentimental and sentimentality will probably be one of the first words in my own obituary. So, yeah. Well, this episode has gone a bit longer. I'm not sure how much longer I'll talk about it. Or about what? Oh, yeah. I feel like I need to start talking about some more fun stuff. And I think these podcasts will get progressively lighter. I guess in a way they're kind of my own therapy as well. Because I don't make enough money to go see a therapist. And I don't think my boss really believes in therapy or mental illness or whatever. I don't know if it's like a generational thing or how she was raised. It's just the thing of power through and ignore them. Ignore what you're feeling. But I see that preached. But emotions do work their way through you. I feel it's kind of like, you don't like the exhaust coming out of your tailpipe. So you're like, oh, we'll just stuff that. We'll put something over and the environment won't have to deal with it. And it's like, okay, that's a very short-term solution, but damages the car. I guess that's one reason why I feel like I'll need to leave soon. Like, I feel like I used to align with that thinking more. Not so much. And she is nice, but it's just our thinking patterns have changed. They're not totally in alignment like they used to be. I used to be all about pushing myself hard and striving and everything. I did used to be able to work for crazy amounts of overtime, and that was a great motivator, but I can't really do that anymore. It's probably a lot of things. I mean, when I was able to do that, I made like $13.50 an hour, and then in 2021 we got a $1.50 boost for if you work full time. So that was cool. I'm grateful for the amount I make, but sometimes it just feels like I got to be so conscious of my bills, make sure that everything goes. And I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but I'm grateful for having very first world problems. But sometimes I feel like there is not an opportunity to sort of advance forward. I do feel kind of stuck and I want to move along. Like friends I have at church, they're getting married and having kids. And I'm very happy for them. And I see their posts on Instagram and it makes me think that as afraid as I am of like screwing up and messing a kid up, and even looking at like all the stuff that's going on in the world, it would be a worthwhile endeavor. But I want to have money so kids can have health insurance. I can try to set them up properly. I just don't want them to struggle. Now, I don't want to make them like rich and like irritating little tools, but at the same time, I want to be able to set them up so that they can set themselves up. You know, with great power comes great responsibility, and all those nice fancy words. It's funny, I'm currently recording this podcast sitting in my red Toyota Corolla, and I saw somebody go outside of my house, and they probably have no clue I'm here. Or if they do, they're wondering, oh, what's going on with David? But I just need to do something creative. I remember, and I think I brought this up before, when I discovered the whole 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing, I really felt like kind of fixed, like there was a mechanism to be creative and make movies again. And I kept having this idea of, you have a moral obligation to be awesome. Like, it's like a command from God or something. You have to be awesome. To not be awesome is not an option. And I'm sure there's theological holes throughout that, but it was just an impetus I had. Excuse me. But yeah, to quote Scott Pilgrim, I need to do something really, really, really cool. Because I had that kind of trauma when I was like 30, 31, and I kind of made a movie in between now and then, but yeah, I just got to do something. I know it's an overused metaphor, but the whole thing about sharks, they have to swim or else they'll die. And I guess part of me kind of feels like I sort of died on the inside a while ago creatively. And I I'm beating a dead horse, but really, kind of that one coworker I had, she kind of, I don't know, it was just simple stuff saying like, "Oh, you're doing this," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's what that is about." It's like that's cool, and I don't know. Also, I have customers who tell me you need to do a podcast again. We've got to bring it back. One in particular who I don't know if she wants me to mention her, but if she's listening, I'm sure she'll figure it out and she'll tell me. Honestly, at this point, I guess like I feel like my goal is I just want to make money so that my parents don't have to be old and trying to work for money. And like I saw how things were with my grandpa and my uncle who's handling the aftermath of my grandpa's death. And my grandpa he was decently well off, but it feels like one of those things where it's like it isn't as far off the horizon as I thought it would be. And yeah, I'm sure that making money, having money will not erase the pain of when I have to go through that with my parents, but it could mitigate several factors. I hope a lot of people who listen to this, don't think, oh man, this is a bit much. Maybe it is, but at the same time, it's like, this is kind of my therapy, so I promise I'll try to keep this like a pretty family friendly podcast. Spotify always asks, does this episode have explicit language? And I always click no. And if I do ever try to address a serious topic, I will give a forewarning at the beginning of the episode saying, I'm going to try to nice it up, but at the same time, this episode will deal with this subject matter. But because, sometimes some people, no matter how much you clean up a topic, they want to be discreet about what they let their kids listen to, and I respect that. But anyway, I guess I'll leave you with the note of you don't know what kind of impact you'll have on somebody. And some people might think, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Huh. Oh, it's probably my brother. I'm in my car and I see somebody pulling up behind me. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, that can't be them. Oh, I guess I had a friend come over. Sorry, guys. But anyway, you don't know what kind of impact you'll have on people. And it could be a really simple gesture. I've been both the recipient of really good and the recipient of really bad. And also I've also been the dispenser of really good words, but also I can say that there have been moments in my life where I've been genuinely cruel, and I have to own up to that. And I'm sure God on the last day will be like, dude, what's up with this? And I'll be like, well, yeah, that was me. And thank goodness for the blood of Jesus and grace and covering me and all that. But anyway, I guess just try to be good, make other people's lives easier, or at the very least, don't make it unnecessarily difficult. Because, yeah. Anyway, as I always say, this has been the David Wells Experiment. Have an absolutely super day, and we will see you next time. Bye.